Alright, so I'm just kind of playing around with the map stuff for now. Don't worry about that. What I want to talk today about is kind of like the logical consequences for certain things, especially things like for world building. Like I write fantasy usually, and most people I know also write fantasy. So one thing that a lot of people I've been talking to don't seem to focus on too much is the logical consequences of their magic system. Like, how does it change society? How does it change the economy? Which are two of the most important things for the magic system. Um, so a lot of people come up with an idea of like where they want to start their story. Do they start it with characters? Do they start it with what's it called? Do they start it with do they start it with like an idea for the world? Do they start it with do they start it with like just an idea? Do they start it with a magic system? I usually start with a magic system for mine because of how impactful it will be. Um, but maybe you started with an architectural idea, like everyone on your planet lives in nothing but massive towers because the ground is uninhabitable because of monsters or something, or maybe the world is nothing but scattered floating islands, like there is no ground, like there's only like a void between the scattered islands. Um, or maybe you're on a donut shaped planet, which is actually my current work in progress. Um, so that's a great starting point, having that, like having an architectural piece, because you can actually figure out like what's going to happen, like what kind of thing is going to take place, like what kind of that's big. What kind of like way the people are going to live, like how they're going to deal with certain things, like what's going to be their major points. So like what do they have to deal with in life because of how they live? Like, is it some major like thing that they have to do, or are they dealing with like having like really weird day-night cycles? Like for example, on mine, one of the things I had to deal with was the shortened day-night cycle, as well as superstorms. In my world, like because the in order to keep a donut-shaped world, the world must spin much faster. Like it's possible to have a donut-shaped world according to physics. It just has to spin 3 to 4 times faster than our world and have some, outside influences. And some of those influences would be things like nearby gas giants and stuff like that. So that's one of those things that I have to think about in the world, on the day-night cycle and everything. Part of the day-night cycle also causes um, issues because of like how much centrifugal force takes place, and the faster spinning world causes more problems because of what's it called? Um, the uh, amount of like storms it creates. So it can create a massive amount of storms because it's spinning so fast. So like you're on average getting like level 8 hurricanes and stuff like that. So I have to structure the world and change everything based on that, like those changes, those kind of things. So that's one of those things that I had to focus on when I was doing part of the world. So but that's the thing. Maybe one of the things that made you want to start world building this world is you had like a type of creature or monster type that you thought about, and you're like, I want to build a monster type like that. Like that's what I really want to do. So you decided to start working on different types of monsters, different types of things, like they go with that. What's it called? Like you have the different types of monsters that go with the world, and you wanted to shape the world around those kind of monsters. Like what kind of, like maybe you have dragons in the world, maybe you have giants in the world. What are the kinds of monsters in your world that make the world more your world? Like what does it? How do you make that your world, kind of thing? Um, So that's another thing you can take to the logical conclusion, like how's trade, how's race relations and stuff like that. Maybe you have a religion or an organization that you thought or is like a really cool thing that you wanted to do for your world. Maybe that's one of the things you wanted to do. Um, Either way, there's going to be something for your world that is very distinct for your world. Um, Sorry about that pause. Had to go answer the door really quickly. Well, anyways, like you have like a religion, like you have some type of thing that's your initial starting point. Like, what's your, kind of thing that draws you into the story, like that makes you want to write that story, and it's different for a lot of people. Running up and down the stairs makes me tired. I need to get better in shape. But yeah, you could have like a different kind of thing for different different what's it called? Um, Different type of starting motivation for your character. Like it doesn't always have to be the same. Like no one knows like what kind of character you want to have. What kind of maybe you're a character focused person. I'm kind of the opposite. I don't really know my characters until the very end, until the second draft basically, and that's where I start to work on the characters during the second draft. Um, so that's kind of how I work with mine. Um, but either way, like if you're doing magic in your fantasy, the first thing you need to do, like once you get your initial idea and you run through the logic of your idea, like what kind of stuff are you going to have on that world, what kind of you know trade you're going to have in the world, that kind of stuff. Like once you get that initially like planned out and everything, the next thing you need to do is immediately start thinking about what kind of magic you're going to have if you're writing fantasy, of course, because that's where I'm talking about here. Are you writing? Are you going to have like a lot of magic, like high magic, low magic? Are you going to follow like the hard magic system where we know what kind of magic system there is? So there's it's better to make sure we understand the magic system so that it's easier to use it for what's it called? Like you can describe the magic system in order to no, let's not do that. So like how hard is your magic system? Regardless of how hard your magic system is, you need to know exactly how your magic system works. Like not knowing how your magic system works is going to totally ruin your story basically. Like if you don't know how your magic system works, then it's going to kind of cause problems. Um, yeah, you basically need to know how your magic system is going to work. Oh, I closed that, didn't I? In order to, you know, make everything more, I guess, valid per se. When you know how your magic system works, like some of the things you should probably ask is how prevalent is your magic system? Is it a very like does everybody have magic? Is it like pretty often that people get magic? Um, is magic super common? Is magic super rare? Do people not actually have very much magic in your world? Do people actually have a lot of magic in your world? Um, that's one of those things that you really need to figure out pretty early on. Um, because depending on how you have your magic, your world is going to uh, kind of come together. Like how things work is going to be based on that. Um, because your magic system is going to determine so much if you actually, um, follow through with it because of how magic is actually going to work in the world. Because you need to follow the logical conclusions of magic in your world. Um, because if you don't, then you're going to have problems. Like you're going to have um, different things causing problems in your world. Like, for instance, maybe you can cast fire magic, and it's super easy to cast fire magic. Everybody can cast fire magic. It's super common. Why would you ever have like flint and steel? Like, why would you ever have any type of like that kind of stuff? Like, why would you ever have like? There's like just so many different things that you could have that are caused. The problems are caused because you have magic, or there's magic there and there's no magic there, or something like that. Um, so that's one of those things you need to discuss and figure out pretty soon, like pretty early on in your process of like writing is like how much magic do you have, how much magic, like how does magic affect your world, and how do you deal with that, like what is the major course of action there, like what are you doing with magic to deal with stuff like that. um, so I'm just playing with the map stuff. So some of the questions you can ask, besides how common your magic is what's the cost of your magic? Because the cost of your magic is going to determine part of your economy. Um, what is what type of magic system is it? Like a bullet system or enumeration system? A system whose cost never really gets explained? Those are all very important aspects of the world. Like you really need to describe those kinds of things like in your notes. You don't have to describe them to the reader, but you need to describe them in your notes so that you can understand more about your world. Um, that's one of those things that, oh shit, a lot of times is not really done, and it needs to be done more. Um, yes, I know. But yeah, I'm kind of playing in this way too much. Another question you can ask is, does your thing have different costs for different abilities? Like, certain magics are super easy and cheap, but certain magics are very expensive, kind of thing? Like, do you have that kind of magic system? Or do you have a magic system that's more like everything costs a certain thing, and that's pretty much what the cost is? Like, it doesn't matter anything else like that. Um, Like, so you got to kind of think of those things. Those are some of the important things. The next thing is, like, how common is the cost? Like, is the cost, like, can everybody get a hold of the cost? Like, is it super cheap to get a hold of it? Is it super expensive to get a hold of it? Um, like, if I had a copy, like if I had, um, I'm going to change this a little bit, but if I had a copy of all the magic stuff, is it really easy for me to um, you know, do the magic myself? Like, could I just go get the cost myself, or do I have to like pay for it from a certain like a guild controls all of this type of cost kind of thing? Um, like those are super important pieces to the information. Um, Another piece to that is so I'm really focused on this map right now. Sorry, I just kind of lose train of thought. Um, okay. Um, is like the two most important questions you can ask when you really break it down is, what can your magic system do, and what can't your magic system do? What can't your magic system do is way more important than what can your magic system do, because you need to figure out like exactly like what are some things that you cannot do with the magic system, what are some things that you can do with the magic system, and then you take that and basically follow up on that with like different types of uh, what's it called? Different types of things, like different types of things you could do with the magic system. Like for example, can your magic system teleport? Like, can you teleport with your magic system? Yes, no, maybe. Uh, can you move? Like, can you carry things in your with your magic system? Yes, no, maybe. What are like the combat uses of your magic system? What are the practical uses of your magic system? These are kind of important details to add to your world that really help, you know, figure things out. Like, you can really determine like what kind of like society and what kind of world you've built based on these kinds of information. Um, you can also determine like what kind of economy you have. Like, you've really got to follow the logical step of, if my magic system can do this, why would this be invented? And if your answer is you don't know, then that was probably not invented. It was probably something that would never be invented. Um, so that's one of those things that you really need to focus on a lot, is to basically follow the logical conclusions to all of your stuff. Like, you need to figure out where each thing is, kind of figure out what you're going to do with each as well as like work on like how you're going to do that, and you need to follow the logic, like following the logical conclusion. Like if you can teleport, that's going to completely change how warfare is done. Like imagine, like, why would you ever bother doing having any type of transportation? Like why would you ever have like a kind of transportation system like for baggage trains or supply carts or anything like that if you can just teleport supplies there? That completely alters how the war is done. Why would you need siege equipment if you can just enter a city unless the opposing city has anti-teleportation stuff? But once you answer the basic questions of your magic system, then you can finally start to go through the logical conclusions of your magic system. But without those questions answered, you really can't, follow up on those different things. You really can't, like, do much. Oh, no. Symbols, eraser. Yeah, you really can't do much if you don't follow up on those kinds of, things. Yeah. So if you can, in the comments, I'd love to hear your answers to those questions. Like, oh no, I want that there. Okay. I want those trees gone. Okay. Yeah, like, what are your, paths? Can I select this path and delete it? Delete. Okay, cool. What are the types of, people you have? Like, what kind of things happen in your world? What kinds of, overall stuff? Like, what kind, like, how is your magic affect your world? Like, what are the, like, how is the magic, like, follow the logical conclusion of what does your magic change about your world that wouldn't be changed without the magic? I'd love to hear what you say in the comments. Talk to you then.